Good evening and welcome to our 26th virtual prayer meeting. My name's Doug Hornock and I'm the pastor at Mid-Valley Bible. Arguably, one of the more exemplary saints in the Old Testament is Daniel. He, along with thousands of others, were taken captive back to Babylon, which is modern-day Iraq, in the year 605 BC by the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. God allowed that to happen because of their disobedience, and he didn't do it without warning them repeatedly. Time and again, that nation had been warned of a basic truth. That is that obedience brings blessing and disobedience, discipline. That principle, by the way, still applies today, but they refuse to obey. So God used a pagan king and a nation to punish them. And they were there for 70 years. And Daniel was there for that entire time. When he arrives, he's just a teenager. And Daniel, along with others, is selected by Nebuchadnezzar to be indoctrinated into the ways of the Babylonians. And part of that involved eating a particular diet that was not kosher, and food that had been offered to the pagan gods. And Daniel and his three friends take a stand against that. And God honors them for their separation. And in the end, they are promoted. By the way, I've often thought that the unsung, unmentioned heroes of that story have to be the parents of Daniel and his friends, who instilled in them principles that they held on to in the midst of their testing. Well, in chapter 2, the king has a dream, and he's so troubled by it that he asks the wise men to give him not only the interpretation of the dream, but also tell him the dream itself. He was no dummy, because if you think about it, anyone can make an interpretation of the dream. And so Nebuchadnezzar says, if you guys are so smart, if your gods are so omniscient, I want you to give me both the dream and its interpretation. And they say, that's not possible. You're asking too much. And Nebuchadnezzar says, well, that's the deal. And by the way, a failure on your part is going to cost you your life. And he's so angry, he says, not only am I going to take your life, I'm going to kill those of everyone who works alongside you and start fresh with some new blood. Well, talk like that would be enough to keep you up at night, and indeed it did for these wise men. Well, Daniel gets wind of the king's demand, and he says, I'd like a crack at that. Well, these guys have nothing to lose. They're clueless. And so Daniel says in Daniel chapter 2 that Daniel went to his house and he made the matter known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, and told them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so Daniel and his companions might not be destroyed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the mystery, we're told, was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night. And Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, to whom belong wisdom and might. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings. He sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. To you, O God, my Father, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the king's matter. Well, Daniel then goes and he tells both the dream and its interpretation to the king. And Daniel is promoted to a position of prominence. Now, that's a very brief summary of that story, and there's so much more. But I want to suggest 3 takeaways from that story. And the first is this: when Daniel had a need, he shared that need with his friends and asked them to pray. We need to do that. We ought not try to make it on our own. We need to ask others to join us in prayer. which is what makes these evenings so important. Second, when God answered that prayer, he gave God praise and thanks. But the third thing that's most amazing is that he thanked God even before he checked out the results with Nebuchadnezzar. His confidence in God was so great, so secure, that he thanked God in advance. Now, God is doing a great work in our midst. During this time, he's answered prayers even before we knew the results. God is at work. And so because of that, you and I can go to his throne of grace with absolute confidence that not only is he going to hear our prayers, he's also going to work and answer them. And so towards that end, let's now go to prayer.